Hello everyone and welcome to Good Morning Trading. I'm delighted to see you again for what might be your favorite show. A trader speaks to traders. We're going to review the latest economic and psychological news from the markets. There's a lot to talk about because things are moving a lot right now, especially since it is also quite difficult to trade at the current moment. I will show you the market charts right away then. On this past Monday, we saw a truly tremendous and powerful bullish surge. I even told you that, well, it was extremely easy to trade. You could buy with your eyes closed and then open them again. It was all gains, and yesterday we had a wave of declines as soon as the American markets opened. Extremely powerful, really extremely powerful. We continuously dropped in a straight line for well over 45 minutes to actually an hour. But it was a wave of declines, of profit taking that was extremely strong and powerful. And yesterday, on the other hand, it was very difficult to make money. Let me be very clear, everything I made on Monday, I almost lost it all back on Tuesday, so my week is off to a start, just starting. Today already I got swept away by a support level that didn't hold. That usually happens, I hit the button, I take my loss, but this time when I hit the button, I took my loss right at the break of the support. There was a sudden massive surge, and instead of losing just 5, 10 or perhaps 15 points at most, well, I lost 40. So as a result, it hurt me a little, just a little bit. But since I made a lot on Monday and lost quite a bit on Tuesday, it's okay, everything's fine. I'm still in slightly positive territory, let's say light green, but now it might be a bit easier. Well, nothing is easy in the stock market, but technically it's a bit more pleasant to trade because, as you can see, for example, here on the Nasdaq, we landed right at Monday's low point to try to start a rebound. And that allowed us to pick up a few points. There's something positive. We're not going to be completely negative. Here I'm showing you yesterday's session, so we have our big pink candle. Drop on the Nasdaq, a small attempt at a rebound around 25,500. Absolutely classic. I took a few points and then I got caught by the break here at this spot, so at 7:30 p.m. Normally I stop trading at 4:30 p.m. Well, there you go, that's it. I shouldn't have traded an extra hour and I got hit by this drop. What's very interesting is that overnight it always stayed above last week's low. You can even see that it touched exactly here at 2 a.m. around 5 past midnight. It hit exactly, it touched last week's low and then started to bounce back. So in theory we have the monthly support and last week's low, which for the time being Publicis is actively trying to contain this massive wave of steady decline occurring on the very soul of the Nasdaq index. So why did it drop like that? With such force, it's extremely simple. It's still all about artificial intelligence. So on Monday, it made the markets rise sharply, and on Tuesday, it made the markets fall sharply. There's a difference between these 2 days. The main catalyst for these massive sell-offs, and they really are massive. I insist, it hit hard, especially in the world of software. It's the launch of a legal tool for the chatbot, the artificial intelligence cloud Anthropic, which, according to the startup, allows you to speed up, for example, contract review and sorting confidentiality agreements. It might not seem like much to you, but there are entire industries that have created software to help companies do just that. And now you have Cloud Anthropic, which is really truly specialized for businesses and, for example, does remarkable text translations. In any case, in all my tests between Jimmy Negro, ChatGPT and Claude Anthropic is far ahead when it comes to text translation. What's more, it's starting to become effective in areas that benefit society, for example. That is actually part of what the large German software corporation known as SAP does, so they got hit significantly hard by this. A blow of nearly 12.8% yesterday, precisely after the announcement of Anthropic's Clo chatbot, which can do part of their job. and the entire sector of specialized enterprise software in this field took a massive hit. In this context, you have Joseph and Sarah Sale, who is a fund manager, who says that artificial intelligence is increasingly able to provide precisely this type of programming services based on the knowledge that underpins these business models, which explains why certain parts of the economic sector are under pressure. For some time now, we have been experiencing a technological breakthrough. Do you remember the time when there were Polaroids? You would take little photos, it was Kodak that did that. You would bring your photos, I don't even remember what it's called anymore, can you imagine? We had a camera, we took pictures, we developed them, and we had a kind of black strip that you absolutely couldn't expose to sunlight. Otherwise, we would lose all our photos and we would take them to the lab to be developed. Well, what happened? We got digital cameras and an entire segment of the industry collapsed. And now we're seeing the same thing. We have the German group SAP. They're in real trouble if their software doesn't offer something more than what can be done. Artificial intelligence, and for much less money, even much cheaper than their software. So, as you can see, it's causing a huge shakeup in the sector, to the point that, as we can see, it's the Nasdaq that has dropped the most. If I look at the S&P 500, it went down, then made a very nice rebound, but it settled at about halfway. It lost 50% of Monday's gains, where it had rebounded by 50% yesterday. It's kind of stuck in the middle of the stream. If we look at the Dow Jones, we see exactly the same setup, but much more positive. The Dow Jones bounced off the 49,000 mark at a strategic level, and it gained back 400 points, more than 20%. It's almost at its highest levels. Within 180 points, it's at Monday's highs. So the Dow Jones hasn't suffered too much, and in fact we can see it in the market price. The Dow Jones is up 0.16%, while currently the Nasdaq is completely flat. It's at 0.01%, and the S&P 500 is up 0.13%. So that's very interesting. It's fundamental. The Nasdaq is much more impacted, much more affected. It dropped much more and is having a really hard time bouncing back. At the moment I'm speaking to you, it's at yesterday's low, whereas the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones have recovered 50% of their Monday losses on the S&P 500 and almost 75 to 80% for the Dow Jones. So be careful. Nasdaq is the laggard here, which is rare and exceptional. And honestly, at the open, they fired with a shotgun. It was a real bloodbath. A quick look at gold, which is climbing again. It's still far from its all-time high. It's about 10 to 11% below its all-time high, but it's back on a strong upward trend. It has taken position on its monthly pivot point. It managed to rebound. As long as we stay above $5,000, it's a good sign. Bitcoin, on the other hand, keeps dropping, and it's falling in steps of $2,000 down to $22,000. Roughly, there was the $75,000, or rather the $76,000, which allowed for a rebound. We hit 74,000, so that's $2,000 lower. Now, its new support, its lowest point of the year, is between $73,000 and $74,000. Right now, it's attempting a very slight rebound. It's at the previous day's closing level, but yesterday it was not far from 75,000. Above 78,000, it dropped to 73,000. We're currently back at 76,000. $100,000 is far off for now, and we're talking millions of dollars. Well, you know what I think about that. Let's quickly move on to the CAC 40 and the DAX. The CAC 40 has had a slight uptick. Honestly, we can applaud that. It's at its highest point in 15 days. But that doesn't change the fact that it's still at its lowest point in the last 2 months. It's trying. So we could give it a little note like, diligent student puts in effort. Usually, when a teacher writes that, it means your kid isn't especially smart, but he's nice, you know? And honestly, these days being kind and polite isn't so bad. If you're kind and polite, you have a good chance of finding a job. That's all that's really expected now. I read a a study specifically about the company L'Oréal, which is one of the French companies that hires with the highest salaries. What are they looking for? They're looking for people who show up on time for the job interview. Arriving 5 minutes early is already a big deal, so who actually shows up? People who show up clean, polite, who know how to say hello, thank you, and goodbye. They're not nervous, they haven't been drinking, and they obviously haven't taken drugs. And that's enough for them to get hired, just to show you that nowadays, good manners are a rare gem. And they have in-house schools to train their staff for the jobs they've been hired for. This also shows the failure of the national education system, which means that diplomas are absolutely meaningless, recognized. They form a group, do oral work, and a major refresher course or an update. Anyway, I don't even remember why I was telling you this. It's just one of the joys of the railway. Yes, regarding the CAC 40, well, on the other hand, there was one that took a huge hit yesterday on the CAC 40. It's the Publicis group. They really got slaughtered, and the same goes for public advertising. Advertising, artificial intelligence can create a marketing or advertising campaign for you extremely quickly, sometimes very effectively. So there you have it. You can see that we have entire sectors that are starting to take a hit. It's serious then. Advertising sector, software sector dedicated to artificial intelligence, well, the translation sector is wiped out. Don't put your money in there, it seems like a very bad idea to me. It would have been like putting money into buying Kodak shares when digital cameras arrived. There you go, Kodak didn't. Unfortunately for them, in any case, they didn't manage to adapt to this revolution. It was a small revolution in their sector. The problem with AI is that it's a global revolution, and it's not just going to affect software vendors or translators. That's it. Right now, I'm developing a company. I'm doing things. Thanks to AI, I would have needed 4 or 5 employees to be able to do it. So I'm doing things I never could have imagined doing. It made me huge budgets, manage teams and everything. And it, well structured, allows me to translate my videos. This video will be translated into English, German, Italian, Spanish, released as podcasts, including a podcast in Japanese, etc. And so on. I'll tell you a bit more about that, but that's something I can only do now. Because of AI, it would have been just a dream before. It would have taken a team of 20 or 30 people to do everything I'm currently trying to do with AI. There are bugs, but the bugs mostly come from me. It's up to me to find the solution. We've covered everything about the markets. I won't leave you without saying goodbye and also thanking you for liking the videos, for sharing them. Some of you do, and it really, really makes me happy. Today you have this video in 4K. Before, you had them in HD, precisely because of what I'm doing. The multilingual translations, the age has stabilized. I'll see how it turns out in 4K. In any case, take care of yourselves. And for the people from my school, we'll see each other tomorrow. I'm going to receive a patch to get the live stream working in the next few hours. So it's been 3 days now, it hasn't been working. But the company that provides me with the live software is going to send me a patch. I don't think it's just me. Anyway, I've reported it and it should work starting tomorrow morning. There you go, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves. Be careful, we're in some interesting zones, especially on the Nasdaq. We're at the lows, you could say. We'd like a rebound, but we haven't had one. We didn't get a rebound yesterday. So, be cautious, be cautious. It just takes, after Claude, for another one to come out with something new again. That will follow. We're going to reject Mini Pro, which might make an announcement in the coming weeks. ChatGPT, I see, is a bit behind in this area right now, so keep that in mind. It's focused on the general public, which works very well for the general public. Either they come back strong all at once. But every time there's a major development, every big step in AI, it can be a real blow for certain sectors. Not all, but some sectors. For software, it's going to be complicated for enterprise software. down 12% in one session. Well, maybe it's not over yet. With that, I send you my best. See you tomorrow morning. Take care. And there you go. On camera, it's so much clearer. You can see the pimples on my nose. It's so beautiful. When technology advances, on that note, take care. Ciao.